Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this episode we are going to be starting on the mega base for this world, which will be super interesting. So let's get right into clearing the space for where it's going to go. I started by clearing the trees on the hill, the other side of my chest storage area. I initially just cleared it in the normal way and then tried to use fire, which ended up with me setting fire to myself, which definitely wasn't ideal, but it did make things a bit quicker. Then I started creating an initial platform for where the base is going to go. As you can see, it's a bit higher than it was, but I also had to flatten out a lot of the hill. This is what the initial platform looked like. I then had to go and make an anvil so that I could maintain the good tools that I was using to speed up the process. I then sorted a few things out in my storage system before going back up to the platform and using my diamond pickaxe to get more of that space cleared. My aim was to clear everything on this side up until the cave at the back, which I did, and I think it gives me a good area to work with. I then found some pillagers looking at me, and I ended up looking like a bit of an arrow porcupine by the end, but I managed to get rid of them before I could continue finishing the area. I stopped clearing at this point because I felt like I had a decent space to begin an outline on. I used wool blocks to space out the different areas. I wanted to make some turrets as well as some rectangular halls that then connected up to each other to look like a medieval castle. I wanted the castle to have a variety of differently shaped rooms, from circular towers to rectangular halls. I think this will make it look interesting and different from each angle that you can view it at. This is what I came up with to start with. There's a little courtyard area in the middle, which I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to put in there yet, but I think it makes it a bit more interesting. Building it as a collection of individual shapes will also mean that over time, if I want to add more onto it, that will be entirely possible with similar shapes added on at either end. Overall, I think this is a good starting place, and this is where you'll get into the castle, so I needed to start preparing the materials for it. I knew I wanted to use copper for the roof, so I ended up cutting a lot of the copper to look like this, and I like the idea that it will slowly oxidize over time as a roof would if you were building it from copper. I didn't want to pre-oxidize it. I wanted the initial bottom of the tower to be made out of stone bricks, so that's what I began with, and I like the idea of building it in levels. So I used tough bricks and stone bricks on the first one, and then when I went out trying to explore and find some dyes that I could use in the future, I came across my very first nautilus in this world and sort of just watched it swim for a bit. I don't know the best way to get them to follow you, so I kind of just left it where it was, but it might be cool one day to get some closer to my area. I didn't end up finding any dyes, so I went back and continued to progress with the tower, adding more onto it like this, using spruce fences as well as the bricks I'd already used, and I created the pattern at the bottom to add a bit more difference to it to make it interesting. I then added these reverse crenellation style detailing on top before I added the next layer. I thought that it just added a level of separation before the next goes on top, which is going to be a calcite layer, so I had to head back into the mines to get some because I had very little in my storage. I really like the idea of incorporating amethyst into this build in some way to give it more of a whimsical look, but I'm not entirely sure how to use it as an accent block at the minute, and I think it might be something that I could consider once I've created the outline of the castle and I have a better idea about where it could go, maybe in the place of a window somewhere. The calcite and diorite layer is going to have spruce accents, so I added some stripped spruce logs and some fences as well. I'm really happy with the way this layer ended up looking, and I think it works really well as a progression from the stone bricks. I thought about creating a gradient with the diorite and calcite layers, but I'm really glad I decided to do this striped look because I think it makes it look a bit different to some of the others that I saw online. The next bit is going to be made entirely of spruce, so I had to start on that with the planks, and it took me a while to get it right and match it with the other side and the front, but eventually I managed to do it, still lining up the stripped spruce logs with the previous layer. I did fall off of the tower quite a lot during building it, particularly on this layer, which was kind of annoying because it meant that I had a really long way to get back up again. This is why I decided to go and create some scaffolding to use, which I'd never really used before in building. I tended to just go with mud towers, but this actually made it a lot easier to do. However, at this point the tower was getting so tall that I had to resort to dirt blocks again in order to get up to the top and finish the final pointed bit of this initial tower. Overall, I am really happy with what this ended up looking like. I think it will be really cute either as the front or as the side if I change where I want the front to be. I then decided to clear out these trees so that I could get a better view of it over the river. I wanted to make sure that the view from my starting cottage would be really good of the castle, and I had to move these trees in order to get it to look the way that I wanted it. At some point I want to improve the walk from the bridge to the castle, possibly with some more terraforming and plants, which is why I decided to get rid of this path that I put in at the start, because I felt like it took away from the initial look. I then started to explore how the hall next to it would join onto this tower and went with this look with archways along the bottom and then a similar wall to the third layer of the tower. I then got a bit distracted whilst looking through the forest and found some chickens. I don't currently have any chickens at my farm and really wanted them as part of the area, so decided I'd collect these two that I saw and put them in a little hole for the time being. I think if I start caring a bit more about what the area around the castle is going to look like when you look out from it, I might have to move the farms anyway, so I just bred up these chickens and I'm planning to leave them there for a while until I figure out what to do with them. I then decided to use the scaffolding in my inventory to get out of this hole. It sort of worked. My next plan was to add the layer that was going to go before the roof on this hall. It's very similar to the one that I did on the tower that I really liked, and then I finished off this side. I really like the way the roof looks from this side. I will at some point have to cover up this hole because I kept falling into it whenever I went to have a look from that angle. I started by building the hall on this side because I thought it would give me a better opportunity to look at what the copper would look like as a roof material. Because I can see it from the side, I have a good idea of how it matches with all of the blocks, so I started by filling in the roof. I definitely went with the right cut of the copper, I just don't know how the colour will look, and obviously you're never going to get a full idea until it oxidizes. However, I do think that the blue oxidized copper will match the icy tones of the calcite and diorite. Once I finished this, I was able to head back to the ground and sleep so that in the morning I could get a better idea of what it was going to look like. I think that it looks quite nice at this point, and I think it still will as well once it is oxidized. I continued the archways around the side and used the stripped spruce log to make the appearance of beams. I think I might come back in and add some more detail once the entire thing is finished, or possibly once I finished a bit more of it to get an idea of what the detailing will look like. I am really happy with how well it blends in with the tower though, but I think it still has its own individual look. I then had to go back in and fill in a bit of the wall that I'd missed. I also had to make sure that it lined up with the stripes of the diorite and calcite, but once I had done that, the building for today on the start of the mega base was officially finished. I'm not starting on the inside of the building before I have created the shell of it, so at the moment it definitely looks like a mess from the inside, but overall I'm really happy with the work that I've done on it today. I was quite conscious during constructing this that I didn't want to use up my diamond tools completely, and so ended up creating a lot of iron pickaxes and axes to help with the construction. This did mean that I'd used up quite a lot of the iron that I had in my chest, so I went back down to the lush cave that I've been using in the last few episodes to collect as much iron as I could find. I've lit up quite a lot of this cave now, and so I've collected a lot of iron from it, but there are still quite big bits of it that I haven't gone into. So I ended up venturing a bit further into the more dimly lit areas, which have so much iron in them, including these big blocks which contain 9 raw iron. Caves make it so much easier to find the iron that is just on the surface. Once I've lit them up, they are so much easier to use as well, so I spent some time walking around and collecting the iron. I also really liked with the glowberries, there are elements of the cave that you don't have to light up. I definitely collected enough iron in this trip down to the mine, but I don't have to worry about continuing to use it to make tools. If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoy seeing this mega base come to life and get finished. It's been really cool to start it today, and I'm so happy with the way it looks and the way that the big tower blends in with the hall to the side of it. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and possibly subscribing. You can also find me on Twitter and on Twitch.